years ago today. It's come up on Facebook Memories, and I thought, well, I might as well do a video about it, just to highlight more. In the latter part of the video, I will show you the devastation it caused to farming, but to give you a bit of context, we were victims, and I hate that because I ain't no victim, of flooding with Storm Desmond, and it absolutely ravaged through Appleby. It was bloody awful. And I'll show you my Facebook memories for context, like what actually happened. So me and Roy lived in Roy's dad's house. Roy's dad had a house which was his grandma's, and it was on the sands in Appleby. Roy's dad had 3 properties on the sand. He had the garage in Appleby, and he also had our house, which we rented off him, and next door, which was a holiday cottage. Priority was always to save the garage, because obviously everything there was worth a lot more and the cars needed moving. Bear in mind, it had only ever got to maybe here once ever, and then apart from that, the flooding really up until that point consisted of maybe knee-high flooding, wet carpets, a ruined sofa. It was of no threat to life at all, and just was more of a disruption and an upset to people rather than an absolute outright tragedy. So anyway, by the time we got home to our house, after we'd sorted the garage as much as we could, we realised that the flood wall wasn't going to hold the water, and we needed to go home ASAP and start shifting our life. So we went home. There was Roy's brother Kyle, there was Roy, me, a young lad called Elliot who used to work for Roy's dad, who's absolutely lovely, and we set to literally just trying to get as much upstairs as possible in our little house. I'll put a video in of what I did. Take videos, obviously I always take a video, and I'll show you what it was like. So if you can imagine, the water was coming up the windows by that point, and Roy's brother Kyle was trying to hold the door back because it was gonna like ping open, which was, in hindsight, my god, that was so dangerous. He could have literally been like, and then the water would have all come in, and oh my god. So I'll put a video in of us lot going crazy trying to move stuff, and all you can hear is like shouting and Roy shouting at me, telling me to prioritise, like sofa cushions do not matter, basically what he was saying. So I grabbed everything that I thought was important, the iPad, the television, you know, the expensive stuff. And then there became a point where we all went, it was coming up the windows and it hadn't broken the lock on the door yet. It was seeping in around the edges, like gushing in, and it was knee deep. And then we realised that outside the water was higher than what we were. And at that point, I think we all panicked and we literally legged it, and we just left all our stuff. So we saved all the cars. We got Anna out, which was a bit of a, when you realise you put your child in so much danger, that was a bit of an eye-opener.
Weather forecasters are warning of widespread.
Whose is that house?
Mine.
Whose is that sofa?
Mine.
But at the time, it had never come higher. I'd never seen it come higher, and Roy hadn't seen it up here like since 2005. Yeah, so we all got out and we didn't go back. Ever, actually, we didn't go back. I'll show you some pictures of when we got back in the house. The water took a long time to go down. It was probably the next night. And you could see like things floating around, and it was really eerie because all the electric in Appleby went off because it flooded the electricity station. And then when the water had gone down, all hands to the deck at the garage to get that right. So we ignored our house. We walked away. And we went and we attempted to put the business back together. It's crazy. We lost one life in the flood, really sadly, and that was Anna's tortoise, SEO Trot. Kyle tried to rescue him and put him in his pocket, but I think he must have just got damp and it was just a bit too much for him, and he did not survive the journey. You thought that was a You never realised. Anna never realised. She's just heard me say that. That's really funny. So it was every bit as devastating as you might imagine. Then the media started coming. Now, if you can imagine 20 or 30 businesses and people's houses all being ruined in one single day, and I don't mean ruined as in like a broken carpet, I mean there's a line somewhere, I'll find the picture, there's a line of me stood next to a toilet wall and it was above me. And the BBC started coming. Now, no one would speak to them. People were too busy trying to piece their lives back together. And
the cleaning company started making their efforts, and unfortunately we then hampered again with the second flood.
Nobody expected it. We were told to expect a foot of water, and it's well and truly gone over the foot. So you've just got to get on with it. It's one of those things, isn't it? But it's going to be hard work. It's another mess to clean up when we've already done it once and in such a short space of time. Anyway, Roy had said, they came to the garage and asked, and Big Roy said she will. And I was like, well. So I ended up speaking to them, and they're like a floodgate. Once you've opened that tap, they all came. So I ended up speaking to loads of them. So at the same time as us, obviously being flooded and having major issues, vast swathes of farmland had been flooded as well. All of this here, all down there. And it was historically a southern thing, like on the fens and stuff, that flooding was a thing. Up here you just didn't see it, especially not like tidal flooding where it's really vicious. So it not only flooded the farmland, it literally ripped through it and ripped it up. And we know people who had major issues where like there was a bend on the river and it literally just cut right into the middle of their field, where it literally just washed a riverbed and dumped it in the middle of the field. Well, how the hell do you sort that out? It was impossible for people. So not only was it us who was affected, it was just a massive, oh God, it was a county-wide thing. So we already had quite a close relationship with our NFU reps. Honestly, they're amazing people. They know that as well. And they helped us so much. Neighbours of ours, home-wise, hadn't even had a loss adjuster around, and we had a rented house. They'd given us money. They'd tried to sort everything out. They'd already had drying equipment in, and things were really underway. And it isn't an advert for the NFU Mutual in any way, shape or form, but tell you how much more superior they were to any other company. I mean, wow. So do you remember the Sainsbury's advert with the little cat that burnt the Christmas tree down at Christmas? Or whatever it did? Our neighbours, Karen, she was with Sainsbury's, and we had drying equipment in and a house, and we were well on our way to being sorted, and they hadn't even had a loss adjuster, and the house was sitting wet through. It's a no-brainer for me, I'm sorry. It's something I will always shout about, is the service that we received from the NFU, and I am in no way affiliated with them whatsoever, but I can't even tell you, they literally saved our bacon. Charlotte Ashley, and I live in Appleby, and we have lost 3 properties due to the flooding. Amanda and her team are fantastic. What kind of representative from an insurance company do you find that actually throws paperwork and bits of old electronic equipment in a skip for you? You know, it's not normal. It's brilliant. I'm just sat in the car with Roy, but I'm not going to show him because he doesn't like YouTube. He's just said a really good point. The reason why we didn't take the flood warning seriously is because we'd had them for the 2 prior weekends. So when the flood warning went off, we all went, oh yeah, again, kind of thing. And we ignored it. As a town, we ignored it.
Well,
it was. The Environment Agency are very good at putting flood warnings out. And I think for the previous 2 weekends, we'd had flood warnings and nothing had happened at all. It hadn't even risen up, had it? Like Roy just said, it was a trail of destruction because it picked up every piece of debris on the land and deposited it on other people's fields, in hedges. It ruined animals, the lot, didn't it? There was a shame about land flooding opposed to us flooding at the garage, and I can say this because I was there and on both sides of the coin. We drove to the garage on a road in a tractor with absolute machinery. Like, we took the bobcat, we were lifting, we were chucking, we were throwing. Them guys with their fields that were flooded, they didn't know when they were going to be able to get on. They didn't know whether, it's absolutely wet as hell. They didn't know whether it was going to be spring when they could tidy up. They lost loads of productive land. And I just think it was, never mind the animal losses, it was just such an upheaval for everybody. So I'm just, there's no real point to this. I'm just telling you the story because it's 7 years on and I thought it was slightly appropriate. So these guys ideally need scanning. Well, all the cows do, to be fair. If any of you watched The Real Country File, the lady from Cheshire Scanning Services was saying the ideal time is 60 days. Well, these have only been in a month, so we're gonna have to leave it a little bit longer just to get that optimum result. So scanning, if you're a farmer, obviously you know what this entails. They basically put their hand and the scanner up the back passage, run the hand along the top of the uterus. They don't put it in the foo-foo, they put it in the poop. It's YouTube, gotta be careful. And they run it along the top of the uterus, and then the goggles that they wear, they've got little goggles, and they see an ultrasound image in the goggles, and they tell you, usually if you leave it long enough, they'll tell you how far in calf the cow is, which is always handy for us, so we know when to look out for calving. So me and Roy have just brought a trough. So Burgers is in here, causing hell. She can't fit her horns through the feed barrier down here, so we've had to move her. These baby calves are yet to realise that they've got their own trough, so I'm going to try and put them through. Go on, kids. Steady ho. Go on, kids. Steady. Go on, babies. Oh, tasty nose bags. Oh, who's got their own space now? Yay! Stand there, you. Look, you're so naughty. Got a really poopy bum. So I just... Hi everyone. Very naughty. And slightly limited in the brain department, I think. From having Valais black noses here on the farm, they are not appropriate for our ground at all. They're meant to be on a hill or a mountain, and all this wet grass is just absolutely ruining their feet, and they're lame all the time. So I've got some Vets gloves, not because I'm soft, normally I wouldn't care, but I've got to go to school in a minute, and if we know anything like the smell of sheep poo, dirty gross sheep poo, just a no-no. Don't poke me with your horn. Who said this was a good idea? Who let me get one of these? He literally hates me. I'm really sorry. He hates me. Bye. See you later. Bye. Ta-ra. Oh my God, look at these guys. This is just heaven. Ooh, baby, do you know what that's worth? Feeding you. Ooh, heaven is a place on earth. Oh, hello, sweet pea. Hello. Oh, hello, I know I'm not feeding you. Go away. Go and play. Go and play, you little beauties. Something about sheep. When they jump on you for food. These guys are pure joy, honestly. I love them.